Welcome back. This is Open Exchange. We're coming to you live from CNBC TV ATL Motilal Oswal studio. Well, as promised, let's get chatting with the management of Hindalco. The numbers are quite good. The India business numbers look strong. Aluminium business improved sequentially as well, while the debt reduced a bit. Mr. Satish Pai, the MD at Hindalco, joins us to discuss the past quarter's numbers and the way ahead. Hi, Mr. Pai. Good morning. Thanks so much for joining us. Well, the aluminium business has improved on a sequential basis. But how much can it improve in the quarter four in comparison to what we have seen in quarter three?
So as you said, the Q3 to Q2 performance has certainly improved in the upstream business and the downstream. On the upstream side, it improved because coal availability and coal costs started to come down. In fact, coal costs came down by about 20% sequentially. And we are expecting that in Q4, you will see another 10-15% improvement, which is a large part of our cost base. So you will see the $555 per ton that you said on the upstream side certainly improving quite a lot. Now you have to remember that besides the cost, the LME is also starting to trend up. In Q3, the average LME was $2,300 per ton, and we are currently sort of mid-February averaging more than $2,500 per ton. So I think the upstream business in India is going to see quite a sharp improvement in Q4 over Q3. The downstream businesses are also doing well. The Indian demand is holding out very strong. On the consumer side, consumer durables, it was a little bit weak during Q3 because the demand was not as strong as the Diwali during COVID time. But we are confident that in Q4, the destocking is complete. So the downstream also should see a very strong quarter.
Mr. Pai, I can't let you go at that. What about the upstream aluminium EBITDA per ton? You said it's going to improve. The coal savings are going to be there, higher LME prices. Can we see the upstream aluminium business move to around $750 to $800 per ton in comparison to the $550 that we saw in the past quarter?
I think you do the calculation even better than our people. So yes.
Okay, all right. $750 to $800 at least is what we're going to see. Let's shift focus to the copper business. Mr. Pai, we have been talking from the time the copper business was around 250 to 300 crores per quarter. Now it's moved to around 550 crores per quarter on a better sales mix. What's the run rate we look at here? Copper EBITDA per quarter?
No, I think that fundamentally, I just wanted to take a minute to say that the copper business is performing so well because we have stabilized the operations. We had to invest a lot of money to fix things on the environmental side. So the operations of the copper smelter, the copper rods, mills are actually very stable. And when you run stable operations in manufacturing, you tend to see these good financial results. So I would say that the copper business goes up and down a little bit with the price of sulfuric acid, which is a large driver. But it would be safe to say that now our sort of trending rate is more like 450 to 500 going forward.
So on Novelis particularly, it was disappointing in this quarter, in Q3, but will it improve? And if yes, to what levels in Q4? Also, when does it start going back to, say, $500 per ton?
So I think, we have been communicating that in Q4, you will start to see an EBITDA which starts with a 4. And I think that, we'll get back to the 500s in the latter half of the next financial year. So that's the point. Now, but it's important to understand a little bit what has happened in the market. I mean, on one hand, you had a lot of the customers that build up inventory. So there is a destocking going on that will be completed probably by Q4. But on the other hand, freight rates have improved. The energy prices, because the winter was not so severe, the energy prices in Europe have moderated. So we are fairly confident that Novelis will have a much better Q4 compared to a Q3. And we'll get back to that 500 plus EBITDA per ton by the second half of next year.
Got that guidance. So can you talk about free cash flows? They were negative at $170 million in Q3, but you're guiding for positive free cash flow in FY23. Could you explain that to us?
There are negative 170 odd million. What's going to happen in Q4 is that you're going to get quite a large working capital release. The amount of capex that we were planning to spend will not happen. So, and the EBITDA will be much higher. So I think as a combination of these three, you will see a positive cash flow number in Q4.
Okay, positive cash flow number in Q4. So for FY23 as a whole, is it fair to assume that the free cash flows will be around $400 million, or could it get better?
Yeah, that's what we have communicated.
Okay, so $400 million as far as the free cash flow is concerned. Got that. What is the guidance that you're giving out in terms of both CAPEX as well as debt for the company for the full year?
So I think the first thing to be clear is that our debt now, we have finished in India paying about 8,500 crores in the first 9 months we have repaid. The net debt to EBITDA in India is 0.26. The overall net debt to EBITDA is 2.6 because Novelis EBITDA went down. The debt, I think, they are largely bonds that we have refinanced with very low coupon rates. So I think next year, the net debt to EBITDA, our target is to keep it in those mid twos. And as the EBITDA of Novelis goes up, we should be able to do that. The net debt to EBITDA in India will remain below 1 because we are down to about a net debt of only 3,000 crores in India. So our balance sheet in India is quite clean.
Mr. Pai, one final question. Since you are comfortable with the balance sheet position right now, any inorganic growth plans, particularly any update on Hindustan Copper?
Yeah, I think that first, fair to say that most of our growth is going to be organic going forward. And I think that because of the strength of our balance sheet, most of the cash we generate, we are going to put back into CAPEX. So both for Novelis as well as Hindalco India, I think that, by the end of March, we'll finalize the plan and announce the CAPEX for next year. But we have fairly aggressive CAPEX plans with the cash we generate. And most of that growth is going to be organic. I think inorganic opportunities, including the one you mentioned, we'll just have to wait and see when they come, and then we'll take a look at it if it makes sense.
Always good speaking to you, Mr. Pai. So the aluminium upstream business moves to around $750 to around $800 per ton. Novelis goes back to around $400 per ton in the coming quarter and then scales to around $500 per ton. And in case